Hello, I'm Jessica Mills and I'm here today with Molina Asthana, Deputy Chair of the LIV's International Law Section, Principal Solicitor at the Victorian Government Solicitor's Office and the Treasurer of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association to discuss tips for lawyers doing business with India. Molina, can you tell me a bit about your experience conducting business with India?
Thanks, Jessica. I was a practitioner in India for 7 years before I moved to Australia. So I worked in the highest court in the country there, as well as a big business house. So therefore, I've advised on a lot of business deals as well as setting up of business in India. And also, since I've moved to Australia, I'm constantly writing about this or being consulted on this. So I do have a quite significant experience.
Okay. And so what advice would you give to lawyers who are setting out to conduct business with India?
Foreign lawyers are not allowed to practice or even advise on local law in India, even on a fly-in and fly-out basis. Therefore, it is you will have to engage a lawyer locally if you have a client who wants to do business in India. The best thing to do is to maintain relationships there, because the profession, there's about 1.5 million lawyers in India, over that, and they are this profession is very fragmented. The areas of specialization differ. Most of them are litigation lawyers and are not very familiar with commercial advice. Therefore, my advice would be to maintain ongoing relationships, so that when you do have a client, you know who to refer the matter to.
What do lawyers need to keep in mind about the business and regulatory environment in India?
In the last few decades, there has been a lot of deregulation and liberalization, but there are still a lot of sectors in which foreign direct investment is either capped or completely restricted. So in areas like law, accounting, taxation, air transportation services, tobacco and cigarette manufacturing, it is completely restricted, whereas in areas of media, public banking, private banking, insurance, it is capped. Also, you should be aware that environmental clearances take a long time. So if you are involved in a project like a power project, it may take much longer to get the clearances than for other projects. And sometimes these become social issues as well, for which there is a lot of activism.
Molina, do you have any cultural tips for lawyers conducting business with India?
Yeah, sure. So when you're dealing with the business community in India, be aware that you may be made promises or over-promised, or nothing would seem impossible in their dictionary, but when it comes to actual delivery, it falls short of expectations. Reneging of contracts is quite common, so and that may lead to lengthy legal battles, and which may take decades to resolve, leaving your client out of pocket and with a lot of delays. Therefore, it is advisable usually to have an arbitration clause in the contract with Singapore as the seat of arbitration and the ICC rules. There's a few other things that you need to think about. Corruption is still very rampant, and facilitation payments are often expected. Be sure that you are not falling foul of any anti-corruption legislation in Australia. And lastly, on a slightly lighter note, be aware of the festival season in India. Usually a lot of festivals are celebrated in India over different periods of time, but the festival of Diwali, which usually falls between mid-October to mid-November, is the one that is universally celebrated and brings businesses to a halt. You will probably find it very difficult to get anything done in that short time, but you may enjoy the festivities and the good food anyways.
Thank you very much for your time today, Molina.
Thank you.